Hi everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. I hope that you are all doing well. This week it's really Monday and this video is on time. And as you know, Mondays mean another episode of Mondays with Margaret. So today we will be talking about a very short and quick book called Murder in the Dark. Short fictions and prose poems. Murder in the Dark was originally published in 1983, and this edition is only, I don't even think it's 100 pages. No, it's not even 90 pages. And in my copy, I noticed that the contents, the table of contents is printed backwards or just placed in the book backwards, but all of the info is there, so it's all good. The book is divided into 4 sections. In the first section, I don't think anything is over 1 page long, and there are like 8 vignettes or prose poems. And it felt as though Atwood was writing about childhood memories, whether fictitious or not, and the people that were important. And there were several of them that I related to. The first prose poem is called Autobiography, and it reminded me of a picture of me, which is one of the poems in Atwood's first poetry collection, and how I was introduced to Atwood's work. The difference with this poem is that she describes the scene much more fully, and there is no mention of her drowning, so that's a positive. Then there's Making Poison, which is about 2 children making poison, and I think that this is the one that I'm going to read from this section. It's on page 10. When I was 5, my brother and I made poison. We were living in a city then, but we probably would have made the poison anyway. We kept it in a paint can under somebody else's house, and we put all the poisonous things into it that we could think of. Toadstools, dead mice, mountain ash berries, which may not have been poisonous, but looked it. Piss, which we saved up in order to add it to the paint can. By the time the can was full, everything in it was very poisonous. The problem was that once having made the poison, we couldn't just leave it there. We had to do something with it. We didn't want to put it into anyone's food, but we wanted an object, a completion. There was no one we hated enough. That was the difficulty. I can't remember what we did with the poison in the end. Did we leave it under the corner of the house, which was made of wood and brownish yellow? Did we throw it at someone, some innocuous child? We wouldn't have dared an adult. Is this a true image I have? A small face streaming with tears and red berries? The sudden knowledge that the poison was really poisonous after all? Or did we throw it out? Do I remember those red berries floating down a gutter into a culvert? Am I innocent? Why did we make the poison in the first place? I can remember the glee with which we stirred and added the sense of magic and accomplishment. Making poison is as much fun as making a cake. People like to make poison. If you don't understand this, you will never understand anything. I chuckled at this ending because the poem brought back a memory for me when a lifelong friend of mine and I made poison, putting various items into a plastic cup. And the children in Atwood's story are much more adventurous and creative, putting in dead mice and toadstools, along with other things, into a paint can. And I think we only put in like crayons and paper and some kind of liquid. I remember it turned a very poopy color, and neither of us would drink it. So next, horror comics is a reminder of how comics were an influence on Atwood. She's talked about this many times in interviews, but the story itself talks about her and a friend who pinched them from drugstores. Now, the same friend and I that made the poison together may have also stole some things from a gas station once, but I'll never tell. And it wasn't comics. At least it wouldn't have been comics if we had stolen something, say, from a gas station. The second part is a short fiction piece called Raw Materials, which is about traveling to Mexico. And the piece is divided into 5 smaller sections with the headings Music, The Beggar, Palenque, I think it's called, The Jaguar, and The Water God. It's amazing how just in a short paragraph, Atwood is able to capture a moment. And if you've ever traveled, you know what it's like to try, foreign food, sometimes having to handle beggars and to wait in lines to see attractions. My experience is that I will do things when I travel that I would never do at home. I see things regardless of weather. I don't care what time I have to wake up because I'm excited to explore and to learn about a new place. So I'm going to read just a paragraph from this piece so you can see what I'm talking about in how she writes. I guess it's a few paragraphs. It's from page 31 to 32. In the morning we climb through steam rising everywhere from the plants up the hill, scorning the tourist buses which pass once in a while, not even full. Will it be worth it, we think? Worth it is what you get in relation to the discomfort you've invested. Whatever it is, we'll have to make up for the bites, mosquito and flea, and the sawdust sandwiches on the train which everyone else knew better than to buy. And here it is, one temple after another, miniature, perfect, almost alive still. But the steps are too steep. They were made so that you could never turn your back on the god. I can't climb them. It's not that I'm afraid of falling. Heights go to my head. I start to believe I can really fly. Just keep looking ahead, you say. Don't look behind you. You'll be all right. But I don't believe it. I stay on the ground watching you go up and up. Towards what? Something real? Envy impels me. I go around to the back. It's not so bad here. I scramble up a mudslide and make it to the top. There's not much left up here but architecture and the minor messes of tourists. But now it's your turn. Steps that go down, inside the pyramid, towards the deepest and most exciting tomb in the guidebook. It's dark and narrow, and your knees start to give out. Holding hands, slipping on the wet stone, we descend. This is where the slaves, or wives, were killed and left to guard the door. This was the door, blocked in. This is the final chamber, but they've taken everything out. The king, his extra golden face, the jade immortalizing him. It's all in a museum 1,000 miles away. The tomb is empty, as they tend to be. That wasn't clear from the text. What we remember is not the absent king, but the fear. The Jaguar Throne. We're standing in line to see the Jaguar Throne. It's almost Christmas now, and everything is crowded, including the monasteries converted to $10 a room hotels, and the washrooms crammed with feet in pastel sandals, and the smell of orange peels and other things, and the crumbling hilltop temples with their inner walls luxuriant with graffiti. But this is the last chance we may ever have. Who knows when we'll be passing this way again? The Jaguar Throne is embedded in a pyramid. First, you go through a narrow tunnel entered at ground level. A tunnel so narrow your shoulders touch each side. The old stone unpleasantly damp, with a skin on it like the skin on a stagnant pond. There is only one passageway. Those who have already seen the Jaguar Throne push past us on the way back, squeezing us against the skin of the wall in their hurry to reach the outside air again. Eagerly we scan their faces. Was it worth it? There are a few small light bulbs strung along the ceiling, a wire festooned between them. The ceiling itself is getting lower. The air is moist and dead. The line inches forward. Ahead of us there are backs, the necks sunburned, the shirts and dresses ringed with sweat beneath the arms. Nobody says anything, though the heavy air seems full of whispers. Ahead of us, up some steps, round corners, unseen, the Jaguar Throne crouches in a square cubicle, its ruby eyes glowing, its teeth vivid, its meaning lost. Who used it last? What was it for? Why was it kept here, out of sight in the darkness? The line of people moves forward into the absence of light. There must have been processions once, flames carried dimming in the lack of oxygen, men in masks, willing or not. The Jaguar Throne was not always a curiosity, something to see at Christmas. Once there were gods who needed propitiation. Once they played a game here in an outside court with stone rings set into the walls. If your team lost, they cut off your head. That's what the carving is, the body of a man with a fountain in place of the head. The blessed loser, making it rain. Metaphor can be dangerous. Not everyone wants to see the Jaguar Throne. but some see it anyway. The third part, which is probably my favorite part, is made up of 5 short fiction, beginning with the title story on page 37, which I think is so clever, and that's the one I think I'm going to read that one to you. Murder in the Dark. This is a game I've played only twice. The first time I was in grade 5, I played it in a cellar. The cellar of a large house belonging to the parents of a girl called Louise. There was a pool table in the cellar, but none of us knew anything about pool. There was also a player piano. After a while, we got tired of running the punch card rolls through the player piano and watching the keys go up and down by themselves, like something in a late movie just before you see the dead person. I was in love with a boy called Bill, who was in love with Louise. The other boy, whose name I can't remember, was in love with me. Nobody knew who Louise was in love with. So we turned out the lights in the cellar and played Murder in the Dark, which gave the boys the pleasure of being able to put their hands around the girls' necks and gave the girls the pleasure of screaming. The excitement was also more than we could bear, but luckily Louise's parents came home and asked us what we thought we were up to. The second time I played was with adults. It was not as much fun, though more intellectually complex. I heard that this game was once played at a summer cottage by 6 normal people and a poet, and the poet really tried to kill someone. He was hindered only by the intervention of a dog, which could not tell fantasy from reality. The thing about this game is that you have to know when to stop. Here is how you play. You fold up some pieces of paper and put them into a hat, a bowl, or the center of the table. Everyone chooses a piece. The one who gets the X is the detective. The one who gets the black spot is the killer. The detective leaves the room, turning off the lights. Everyone gropes around in the dark until the murderer picks a victim. He can either whisper, "You're dead," or he can slip his hands around a throat and give a playful but decisive squeeze. The victim screams and falls down. Everyone must now stop moving around except the murderer, who of course will not want to be found near the dead body. The detective counts to 10, turns on the lights, and enters the room. He may now question anyone but the victim, who is not allowed to answer, being dead. Everyone but the murderer must tell the truth. The murderer must lie. If you like, you can play games with this game. You can say the murderer is the writer, the detective is the reader, the victim is the book, or perhaps the murderer is the writer, the detective is the critic, and the victim is the reader. In that case, the book would be the total mise en scene, including the lamp that was accidentally tipped over and broken. But really, it's more fun just to play the game. In any case, that's me in the dark. I have designs on you. I'm plotting my sinister crime. My hands are reaching for your neck, or perhaps by mistake your thigh. You can hear my footsteps approaching. I wear boots and carry a knife, or maybe it's a pearl-handled revolver. In any case, I wear boots with very soft soles. You can see the cinematic glow of my cigarette waxing and waning in the fog of the room, the street, the room, even though I don't smoke. Just remember this: when the scream at last has ended and you've turned on the lights, by the rules of the game, I must always lie. Now, do you believe me? Simmering is also clever in how it shows the roles of men and women in the kitchen and how mentalities and roles can be reversed. The next piece is called Women's Novels, and it continues that theme, also in a very clever way. It's also quite humorous, probably because there's some truth to it. It is divided into 7 short paragraphs that give the difference between novels for men and women and the expectations of the characters and readers. I will read the first paragraph so you can get the idea. This is on page 43. Men's novels are about men. Women's novels are about men too, but from a different point of view. You can have a men's novel with no women in it, except possibly the landlady or the horse, but you can't have a women's novel with no men in it. Sometimes men put women in men's novels, but they leave out some of the parts, the heads, for instance, or the hands. Women's novels leave out parts of the men as well. Sometimes it's the stretch between the belly button and the knees. Sometimes it's the sense of humor. It's hard to have a sense of humor in a cloak, in a high wind, on a moor. Women do not usually write novels of the type favored by men, but men are known to write novels of the type favored by women. Some people find this odd. Happy Endings is about two characters, John and Mary, and how their story, or the plot of any story really, can take several different paths, but the ending is always the same. And Atwood again shows, what makes a good writer. It's about not writing the what and the what and the what, but including the how and why. Bread is a traditional German fairy tale that is reflection on the different perspectives of what bread symbolizes. So for some it is taken for granted, and for others it is a matter of life and death. And then the final piece in this section is called The Page, and it is a reflection on a page of paper that I thought only a writer could write this. The fourth and final part has 12 prose poems, and again they are mostly a page or less, and these were not my favorites, but they covered similar themes: nature, power, relationships, the human body, and sex. My two favorites were The Instruction for the Third Eye and Iconography, and I think I'm going to read Iconography to you. He wants her arranged just so. He wants her arranged. He arranges to want her. This is the arrangement they have made, with strings attached, or ropes, stockings, leather straps. What else is arranged? Furniture, flowers, for contemplation and a graceful disposition of parts to compose a unified and aesthetic whole. Once she wasn't supposed to like it. To have her in a position she didn't like, that was power. Even if she liked it, she had to pretend she didn't. Then she was supposed to like it. To make her do something she didn't like and then make her like it, that was greater power. The greatest power of all is when she doesn't really like it, but she's supposed to like it, so she has to pretend. Whether he's making her like it or making her dislike it, or making her pretend to like it, is important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is making her, over from nothing new, from scratch, the way he wants. It can never be known whether she likes it or not. By this time, she doesn't know herself. All you see is the skin, that smile of hers, flat but indelible, like a tattoo. Hard to tell, and she never will. She can't. They don't get into it unless they like it, he says. He has the last word. He has the word. Watch yourself. That's what the mirrors are for. This story is a mirror story, which rhymes with horror story. Almost, but not quite. We fall back into these rhythms as if into safe hands. Overall, what I liked best about this little Atwood gem is that it gives glimpses into Atwood's writing, her themes, the issues that are important to her, and definitely her sense of humor. I'm not sure if I'm getting more used to her humor or if she is more generous with it as we read further along in her works. Either way, I'm enjoying it. Please let me know what you thought of Murder in the Dark. Did you have any pieces that were your favorites? Is there anything that surprised you while you were reading? Do you have a preference for Atwood's poetry or short fiction or novels? I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, I will leave the reading schedule in the description box below for this series, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.